think it's easier for the public to understand, pitching development. It's a lot more straightforward. Hitting is messy because, there's still plenty of things that we're finding out. Bat speed stuff, bat tracking, bat swing length. All these things have just recently become public metrics.
You're listening to the Show We Go Baseball podcast.
All right, so first question for you. Obviously, first year in the Red Sox system. How are things going splitting time between here and Portland?
My job is exciting from the fact that I get to work with these guys who are going to surely impact the major leagues in the very near future. So going from here to Portland, first and foremost, the crop of players that I get to spend time with, they play an exciting brand of baseball. So the Red Sox should be excited about what's coming in the near future. On top of that, we've got so many good people on staff, whether that's just in the hitting department or it's strength, medical, pitching, managing, defense. Like I had, another guy or two from the Yankees make a move over to the Red Sox before me, and they, again, like the Yankees, with a lot of good people, they had a lot of great things to say about the Red Sox. So it made me feel personally more comfortable, like coming over and landing here. But it's been above and beyond what I thought it might be.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the biggest topics of the offseason with the Red Sox was obviously the pitching side. Like obviously when they hired a guy in Craig Breslow and brought in Willard and Bailey and the drive line guy Kyle Boddy, for example. I feel like a lot of the attention has been on the pitching side of things, but obviously they bring you over as well. So I guess coming over from the Yankees, has there been anything that you've looked to, how things were before you got here? Have things changed drastically? Have you just tweaked some things? How has that been since you've been? Has it been a complete overhaul, or has it been good process, but maybe tweak some things?
A little difficult for me to answer that because I don't know what it was like before me.
Fair point.
So I only have, I don't have an unbiased view of it. We were talking about it here recently, especially with the mid-season kind of reviews starting to happen. It's looking at the results, as kind of justification for a lot of the process. Because we do harp on the process and trust in the process, but at the end of the day, the process does have to yield some results. Or else we need to be making adjustments. And you look at AAA and the FCL, and they're both leading their levels in controlling the strike zone and lowest chase rates. And you look at high A is putting up is making some noise with regards to hard hit balls. Low A has got some really exciting pieces and some guys that might be a little bit more raw, but when you look at some of those underlying things like bat speed, you really see them at the top of their level with regards to the bat speed development and their athleticism and their ability to of course, like I was saying, this exciting brand of baseball. And then of course you've got AA, who is leading all of AA, that entire level in production. What you can almost pick your stat there, whether it's actual or expected. They're doing a really, really good job there, and that kudos to the players, obviously, and that's not just York and Teal and Roman and Marcelo. It's everyone. People didn't really have Matthew Lugo on their radar, and you look at what he's done and with controlling the strike zone and getting the ball in the air with authority. I think at the end of the day, we're doing this in order to put together the best offense that we possibly can at the major league level, which means we have to score runs. And I really do appreciate Pete Fatsy in the fact that, like, even in spring training, the goal was about scoring runs. And what do we need to do tonight in order to score enough runs to win the game? And then if we stack that up enough times, then we meet our run scoring goal, but then we also win enough games to keep our, to do our job. So, at that level, it's no secret. The amount of injuries has been, it's obviously on the high end, and credit to the players and staff there that are on a regular basis putting themselves in a position to win the game, despite having a roster that maybe wasn't what was anticipated.
My next question here, because what you kind of preluded to it. Obviously, working with guys like the Roman and the Kyle Teals, obviously the very high-end prospects in the system. But then you also look at the other side of things. You brought up a name, Matthew Lugo, who has really put himself back on the map this year after a down year last year. And he cut his chase rate and his strikeout percentage is lowered. So. And also another guy, Mickey Gasper, who's up here now, who was a minor league Rule 5 guy, and he was, I think, third in the Double-A for doubles, I think, whenever I was checking it last. Like, he was right there with Marcel Meyer. Is that kind of like seeing those guys do that, especially a guy like Gasper and Lugo, who may not have been like on the offensive radar coming into this season, and now all of a sudden here they are, they're in AAA, they're one call away from the majors. Is that kind of like, I don't know, to give you a little bit of, not satisfaction, but just being like, okay, like something's clicking for these guys, like, and it's not like obviously the highest rated guys in the system?
Look, there's always satisfaction with that. There's no hiding that, and I'm okay with saying that. Like, it's very gratifying when you get to see that type of stuff, and especially with Mickey having been in the Yankees organization and seeing what he's capable of there. I love seeing his chances and opportunities here. The thing that we kind of talk about as a hitting department is that we want to be the best hitting coaches in the world, not just like the best swing coaches or the best, take your pick, whatever it is, some smaller fraction of what it takes to be a hitter. We didn't want to just do one component. We wanted to be able to serve the players in every component in whatever they needed, whether that was over a 6-month period or if it was, in the moment and we were trying to make an adjustment, because of the last week or two. And so we've got a great coaching staff that is very capable of doing, like, helping the players in any way possible. But then we also have the players on top of it. And what I will say, like, the acquisition process here has been one that I don't fully understand yet, but I can see the results of it, where it's like, okay, we don't just have talent, but we also have workhorses, guys with great attitudes that are willing to put in the work, where they can take constructive feedback and do something with it, and they're not afraid of that. And so it's been an all-around process, not just from the coaching standpoint, not just from the player development standpoint, but also clearly from the scouting standpoint to even put us in this position.
That's I got a couple more questions and I'll let you go, but that's leads me to my next thing here is, you're talking about player development, and obviously we were talking earlier that a lot was made in the offseason about what they've done with the pitching development in the org. How do you work hand in hand with, like, say, a Justin Willard or a Kyle Boddy or whoever it is in the system? Like, do you guys kind of, like, work hand in hand? Obviously, two way different things, but how is your relationship, I guess, with that side of the house, and how do you work with them?
So I think that, we really wouldn't be taking advantage of all of our resources if we weren't having conversations with the opposite side.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier for the public to understand, pitching development. It's a lot more straightforward. Hitting is messy because, there's still plenty of things that we're finding out. Bat speed stuff, and bat tracking, bat swing length, all these things have just recently become public metrics. Think about pitch velocity. Like, are you kidding me? Like, pitch velocity, and we've had exit velo for a while, but we know so much more about, like, the biomechanics of a pitch, what it's like with using TrackMan and looking at spin, the spin characteristics of a pitch, using Edgertronics for pitch manipulation and grip manipulation and seam shifted wake and all. Like, you might not, as a public, the public might not understand all of that, but you understand enough of it, and that technology's been around for maybe you could say decades at this point. So we're still in the front of, like, a hitting revolution, and so for pitching to get the notoriety, that makes sense, because it's easier to make sense of it. But just because hitting's messy doesn't mean that we should discount the stuff that's going on here, especially. And so with regards to, like, talking with the pitching department, of course, whether it's not just game planning, but a lot of it does revolve around game planning, but there are still, like, similar mechanics to pitching the ball and hitting the ball that are similar. There are, especially if you're trying to help 100% of your hitters, sometimes you got to get creative, which means you might take something from the pitching department or the defense department or high school or a different sport entirely, And so, again, nothing goes untapped in order to help the players accomplish their goals. But you can think about, like, some conversations with the pitching department with regards to, like, swing and miss, or, like, how they might attack a player, or how we might view the swing in a way where maybe they could exploit another team's hitters. So those conversations definitely go on, and hopefully it just accelerates our ability to improve as a department, as a player development department.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point on how the pitching side of things is way easier for even the public to garner, because it's like, I see so many tweets, or if I'm tweeting about the game or something, they're like, well, what was his velo at? What was this at? And it's like, but you never hear, like, well, what's this guy's barrel percentage? What's anything, right? Like, it's you're
right, like, even barrel percentage, like, it requires a definition.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's this exit velocity at this launch angle, and all the, like, the pitching side just requires less explanation.
Yeah.
Certainly, we have to understand it. We need to know it. Maybe 15 layers deeper than the general public, 10 layers deeper than our players, and we're not giving every player the full amount of information. We're finding the appropriate amount for that given player to make their improvements or to continue on with their strengths, make their strengths stronger. And I will say that, like, something that I think we do a really good job of is not just trying to bring the floor up, or, in other words, like, enhance a player's areas for improvement. I'm trying to dodge the word weakness. But it's really to enhance strengths, to make the strength stronger. And so in training, we're really focused on that improvement. And in the games, we're really focused on exploiting our strengths and maximizing our strengths. Sometimes pitchers force us to have to do things that we're not the best at, but we're practicing all of that. So in time, the floor gets higher while also the ceiling gets higher, and then that's the type of system we want to have.
So I got a final question for you, and I'll leave you with this. You've had some experience working in the big leagues and with big league hitters. So have you taken anything from that experience that you have and, say, working with a guy like Matthew Lugo, who's now one call away from his MLB debut? Have you implemented anything from your experience and just being up there and working with the guy, a guy like Aaron Judge, for example, or DJ LeMahieu or somebody like that? Just having experience, knowing like what kind of hitting mind they are, and being like, okay, like I've seen a lot of ways things work, and then implementing that with a guy like Lugo and being like, this is how you get up to that level.
For sure. I mean, but yeah, I think we all lean on those experiences, and yeah, I've had the unique experience of coaching superstars like Judge and Stanton and Donaldson and LeMahieu and Rizzo and Glaber. I mean, they're right, like established, big leaguers. I still think about, the time with Matt Carpenter and when we were struggling as a team, and he spoke up on how to like really kind of manage that situation and manage the pressure and the feeling of like having to step up and do everything. Obviously that's often like counterproductive, and really focusing on some of the micro things and trusting that process and evaluating yourself on the process there more so than the result. And you find yourself referring back to some of those conversations as players at every level struggle or are wondering if this is the right direction to go. Often it's them bringing an idea to you and being like, hey, what do you think about it? It's like, well, you know what, that's interesting because so-and-so thought about it exactly the same way. So I do know that this can work. This is kind of what they did about it. This is how they went about their business on a daily basis in the game against this type of pitcher. This is what they were trying to do. And so there's no doubt, and it's, I think the guys here in Worcester especially are lucky where they've got Doug Clark in his playing experience to lean on, and in his time in San Francisco that he's bringing that experience over here. And of course, Getty, I mean, Getty's historic. So him in the gamesmanship that, that he played with and that he's witnessed, and being able to help guys, especially as these younger guys come up and now they're playing against more experienced players. And a lot of, if we're being honest, a lot of the reason that they've gotten here is because they're just more talented. And so now you add that talent with the ability to play the game. We want both. We don't want one or the other. We want a really well-rounded baseball player, high floor, high ceiling, that can help us win games in Boston. And not only is Abe's and Oach and Willard they're not just staffing the player development system with guys that are capable, coaches that are capable of helping players, but we have Taboni and the scouts and Devin Pearson being able to acquire talent that is a joy to work with. So I think I've answered that question. It's but it's been a really good experience.
Well,